Hi, I'm Gene Rodman. I'm a professional photographer living in Montana. I own a gallery and a studio called Montana Photographic Arts. I switched from film to digital quite a few years ago, and naturally I wanted to learn how to process my images in Photoshop. But when I opened it up, I didn't even know where to begin. So I learned Photoshop the hard way by reading lots of books and watching tutorials, and going to seminars and reading magazines. It was the hard way because the books and tutorials would tell me what to do and how to do it, but they never explained why, so I never knew if what they were telling me would really apply to my images or just the ones that they were working on at the time. There were tons of tutorials to choose from, but I never knew what steps to take from start to finish. I just learned little bits at a time and really couldn't see the big picture. And if you've watched tutorials by experts, you know what I mean. They're very confusing. Very often they don't show you all the steps or how to access all the tools they use, and I found that very frustrating. Through the years of working on Photoshop, I've created my own way of doing things based on how I worked in the darkroom. Now, you've probably heard the joke about how many Photoshop users it takes to change the light bulb. Well, it takes 100. One to really change the light bulb, and the other 99 to tell them a better way to do it. So that's how Photoshop is. There's lots of different ways of doing things. So I'm going to show you how I do things. So in this video I'm going to show you the 2 steps that I do with every one of my images to get them ready to print. But first I want to talk about this brightly colored mountain range over here. And it's called a histogram. And what a histogram is a graph of the image that you see that I have open on Photoshop. And the way that you read a histogram is the dark colors are on the left, and as you progressively go to the right, they progressively get brighter. Now you can see that there's a bunch of different colors in this mountain range, and what that is it's the primary red, green, blue colors that every color image is made of. And you see that there's some other colors that are like pink and purple here. That's where you overlap the colors of the red, green, blue. And the height of these mountains are how many of this one particular color is in this image. So you can see here on the pink and purple here that I'm showing you with my cursor right now, that's all the different pinks and purples, and you can see that it's kind of a light pink, and so it'll be on the the right hand side where the lighter colors are. The darker colors down here are all these reds and yellows down here. And so that's how you read a histogram. And you can see that I have a little bit of a gap here, that the left-hand side doesn't go all the way over to the left, and the right-hand side kind of does. So the first adjustment you make in Photoshop is a levels adjustment. And you access the levels dialog box by going up to Image, Adjustments, Levels. And you can see that here's the same histogram, only this one's in black and white. And so what you want to do is you want to take this slider and move it over to where the histogram just starts. And you can see that by doing that I've increased the contrast of it. I made the blacks go more over to where the blacks actually start. Now if I was to go over and do the same with the whites and I went too far, you could see if I access that again that I now have a spike here on this right hand side. Now you want to avoid these spikes on the left and right hand side of your image, because what's happened is this is the amount of image detail that is now lost. So you want to avoid having a spike on the left or the right hand side. So I'm going to cancel that out and go back to the original image, and then go up to Image Adjustments, Levels again, and then I'm just going to take this on the left hand side over, and we're going to say that's okay. And so I just did a levels adjustment, and that's the first thing I do in Photoshop. You can see that's how it was before, and that's how it was after the levels adjustment. So the next thing I want to do is go up to Image Adjustments and do a Curves adjustment. Now you can see that you have some letters over here, and this is Control M and Control L for levels. So Control M is just a keyboard shortcut in Photoshop. So by hitting Control M, you can access this Curves dialog box a lot faster than going up to Image Adjustments and then Curves. So there it is. You see underlying the Curves dialog is the histogram that's the same in here. And the way this works is the dark color is on the lower left and the bright color is on the upper right. and you can see the histogram underneath. So the way you do this curves is the steeper that the curve is, the more that the tones are different. The flatter the curve is, the more they're the same. So I'm going to show you this real quick. So I'm going to pull this down and pull this up a little bit. And you can see that I increased the contrast of the midtones, which the midtones are right in the middle here. So what I've done is I've increased the steepness of this curve in the middle, and I've kind of flattened it a little bit at the top and the bottom, so that the bottom and the top tones have less contrast and the middle tones have more. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out and show you just the opposite. By hitting Control M, I bring up the curves dialog again. I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to raise it here and lower it here. So what you see that I've done is I've decreased the contrast, and you can see that when I click off and on the preview button. And you can see here that now my curve in the midtone is flatter. It's steeper in the top and the bottom where I increase the contrast. It doesn't really show that very good here because the tones here, there's not that many of them. So let's go ahead and cancel this out and go back and do some actual productive curves adjustments. So by hitting Control M, you see that I have my dialog box opened up. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to move my cursor along this mountains here, and you can see that there's a circle that's going up and down the curves dialog right here. And so what I'm going to do is by pulling apart that one particular area, by raising it and lowering it, you can see by hitting the preview button that I've increased the contrast of a lot of the image, but also the majority of what I wanted right here. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to open it up again. And a lot of times I'll do 3, 4, 5 different curves adjustments. Every time I'm going to ask myself, what does this image need? Now to me it looks kind of muddy down here, so I'm going to run my cursor down here, and you can see at the lower parts of the image I want to pull those up to brighten up this down here, but then I'm going to pull this back down to keep it more of the same of what it was. And so there you have, I brightened up a lot of my dark colors, and I'm going to hit OK with that. And then I'm going to do it again, and this time I'm going to just kind of take the majority of this right here, and I'm going to increase the contrast by slightly pulling this down and slightly pulling that up. Maybe pulling a little bit more up at the very top. And so you can see that I've increased the contrast, and it's starting to look a little bit better. If I do another one, I'll do the snow right here. So I'm going to pull the snow apart a little bit there. And you can see that now my image is really improved from the original like that. I really improved it to that. And so those are the two adjustments that I make when I first open up an image on Photoshop. And of course I could work on it some more, and it's really up to you how you want to work on your images to get them to look the way you want them to look. So obviously there's a lot more adjustments to make than just the two that I showed you just now to finish your image and get it ready to print. So if you'd like to learn everything you need to know to take your original image and get it ready to be printed, then I invite you to sign up for my Photoshop lessons at www.photoshopmentorseries.com. I made sure that all the steps are included, but I'm not including anything that's not necessary for you to learn right now. So just to let you know, I'm not a Photoshop Adobe expert. I'm a real-life professional photographer who uses Photoshop every day to process the image that I sell. Whether you'd like to become a professional photographer or you just want to keep it as a hobby, it doesn't matter. You still need to know how to use Photoshop to its fullest potential to create the best images that you can. So if you'd like to improve your photography right now and you've been wanting to learn Photoshop through lessons that explains things clearly and completely for you so that you actually understand them, this class is definitely for you. So go to photoshopmentorseries.com, or you can see my work on my website at mtphotoarts.com.